I just want to apologize to the listeners from last night. Yeah, I was a little under the weather. I hope the audio is okay. Um, Now, check this out. Every day is running, and crazy ass madman Elon Musk, the Nazi, the master, the slave master, essentially. I call him Elon Musk, the American slave master, because here we have a new generation of white South Africans, apparently, right? That, whose ancestors amassed huge amounts of wealth on the backs of other human beings. I mean, we're talking about whole nations and nations of human beings, because South Africans weren't even like called South Africans before. There were several nations put together by force now. And they had to live in poverty, and a lot of them live in abject poverty today. I mean, they went through apartheid, and the effects of it are still ongoing. The effects, which are historic, because you don't go through something for 100 years, 100 some odd years, and think that it's not going to affect you as a human being. It does affect you. It's not just nurture, it's also nature. You see what I mean? It's not just nature, it's also nurture. And apartheid has a way of nurturing people in a brutal way, if you could call it that. And Elon Musk is the one who, he inherited um, a lot from those bad qualities that were exhibited and enacted on others in South Africa. And now he's in the US, and apparently he thinks white Americans ain't shit, apparently. And not that that makes it better for other people. Like, it's not that because he thinks white Americans ain't shit that all of a sudden that's going to equal black Americans or something. No, you ain't shit also, according to Elon Musk. You're not part of the bottom line, and you poor people of European descent living in these red states, you are not part of Elon Musk's bottom line. Now, the surprise is on you, because you elected him thinking something different, and of course you're never going to get that thing from Elon Musk, because the one thing he values and he learned from apartheid is that the poor whites will hold up the apartheid system. The wealthy ones will run off with the money once it's over. And that's exactly what happened with South Africa. I mean, the wealthy ones ran. They left. And Elon Musk is part of that class. Now, where is he going to find a home? Well, he must find dumb, ignorant, poor white people to find a home among. That must be what it is, because these are the only ones that would ever even be enticed. And I'm not saying that the enticement is not great or, is not attractive. I'm just saying he's going for the bait and hook for you all. He's catching you with the things that bait you, and then once you get on that hook, you realize you're on a whole nother ride than you thought. You thought it was a meal ticket, and you're finding out that the meal is you. You are the ones that will be had for dinner by many. Dog eat dog. Now, this now that it's Sunday, it's Monday morning over here in the EU, but it's still 2 a.m. It's Monday now, and but we could call it Sunday night. While people were on Sunday kicking back, relaxing, eating their Thanksgiving turkey, right? If they believe in that, Musk calls to impeach judge who ordered block of DOJ Treasury system access. Hey y'all, hey y'all. I applaud this Elon Musk calling for a judge to be removed, an American to be removed, a naturalized born American to be removed. I'm looking for that. As a matter of fact, who is the judge? I want to look this up. Is this a natural born American? But in any case, it's a judge, and it gives us a good look at how these people like the law only when it suits them. And when it doesn't suit them, they will dismantle it, change it, and deny you any access to it. Not the same way that they have access. That's not what they want. They don't want you, the average citizen, the taxpayer, the one who pays the lion's share of the federal budget, They don't want you, the one who goes to hours, work hours every day, and every hour that you work, you pay into that federal budget. Yes, it's people like you that are the patriots. The people like him are the scumbags, truly scumbags. And I'm pretty sure if you ever met him, I've never met him, but I'm just guessing, right? You probably overestimate it. You probably look at this guy like he's a hero, and he's probably a numbskull that's just got daddy's money, like flat out. And anybody can fake like they're smart with daddy's money, right? Who can't? Who can't fake like they're smart with daddy's money? I mean, if you're a halfway intelligent prince, you don't act like an asshole because you're intelligent enough to know you had every advantage that the society gives. So your failures are bigger failures. You had smaller hurdles, but your failures could be big. And Elon Musk, he's shown that he just doesn't appreciate the wealth. He doesn't appreciate the good things you could do with that kind of wealth. Like you could literally fix the effects that apartheid have had on all the citizens of South Africa, but you as a human being choose not to. The type of human being you are, Elon Musk, you choose not to because you are not a giving person from the heart. You are a taker. You are willing to watch poor people live in the streets as long as you get a buck out of it. You're not the type of leader that helps poor white people or poor anybody else. So, but let's read on. Let's read on. Part of the war, y'all, and I'm just gonna call it a war because it is a war. Part of the war for your life is being fought right here in the courts. Now, who's fighting that? Who's taking these things to court, right? Who's doing this? Who's fighting on behalf of the American people? And who's fighting on behalf of Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk has called to impeach a federal judge in New York, Paul Engelmeyer, I'm sorry, over an order that temporarily restricts the tech centibillionaire and his Doge team. If you want to call it a team, I'll call it dog shit team. Literally. I call it dog shit, like scumbag of the earth team from accessing U.S. Department of Treasury payment systems and sensitive data. Elon Musk, go suck on a rock somewhere and your Doge team. Like, really, go find some other people to leech off of. You leech. Over the weekend, an outraged Musk posted, he's outraged. Oh, boo boo, daddy, daddy. The social network he owns calling Engelmeyer a corrupt judge protecting corruption. Oh, so you see the gaslighting? He's the one that's doing it, and people are just sitting back listening to Elon Musk like his words are like he's not the one who's corrupt. He just call a judge corrupt. Why don't you? Elon Musk, call for the Senate to do something. Call for Congress to do something. The do nothing Senate, the do nothing Congress, the do nothing for the poor whites. And I have to emphasize that because discrimination does live. Racial discrimination lives. Like a woman would say, do so like you do for the white man, Elon Musk. Go fight that case, Elon Musk, because you ain't doing it for the white woman. We have to point this out. White women didn't have a vote. They couldn't own property. They were property of white men, literally, just like slaves were property. Okay. Now, Elon Musk is not doing this for white women. I would be surprised, because this could be a woman on the bench. I mean, I'm not saying it is. It's obviously not by the name. It's giving male energy. but, but, I'm sorry, but I gotta drink my coffee. But, I mean, again, this guy is backing up Trump, who is a convicted, he lost the civil case for sexual assault, trying to get at a woman in a changing room, trying to force his fang and his fingers and his dangalang up inside of a woman in the dressing room of a department store. He's been accused of doing it on a plane. He's been accused of doing it with Jeffrey Epstein, with a little girl, a minor. Come on. This is who is working with Trump. This is who the rich people are backing up. They're backing up rapists. Musk and his special government employees. By the way, if you okay with him doing that, even a white man should be completely and utterly ashamed to just give away your daughter, to think that your daughter can be property. You know, someone owns her, just because he met her and he has money and he can do whatever he wants. Well, this is what's going on. Musk and his special government employees, who are part of the Doge initiative, are tasked by President Donald Trump with finding ways to slash federal budget, massively reduce the federal workforce, and eliminate as many federal regulations and agencies as possible. I mean, look, it says right here, they are tasked by President Trump. MAGA people, did you vote for President Trump to do that? Is that what you voted for? You voted for Trump to give the work to Elon Musk? Did you voted for Elon Musk to be the decision maker, the fixer, the solver? I mean, because Trump obviously isn't, because Trump hasn't solved anything yet. The war in Ukraine hasn't stopped, right? I mean, what's going on here? He wants to go into Gaza and rebuild Gaza, even though the people that actually dropped those bombs in the way that they did should be the ones paying for it. Because after all, getting aid for defense is not the same as getting aid to destroy an entire nation, to destroy homes. That's not what aid is for. Defense doesn't have to go that way. You weren't fighting Russia on the battlefield, Israel. You were fighting a lesser power. Like literally, like you may be fighting Iran, but even Iran is Iran is a little bit of time away from you. They're not there every day. Where's the tanks? Where are the tanks that they use? This is what I'm talking about. And I'm not trying to minimize the suffering of Israelis or the history or minimize the suffering of Palestinians. Both. The average American doesn't want to minimize the suffering of either, but goddamn, we are located somewhere else. And MAGA people, is this where you want your money going? It's up to you. You seem a little flip-floppy. Thus, let me make sure y'all can see this. Oh, and let me open up the chat just in case somebody's there. I didn't open up the chat yet, but in any case, let me see here. Donnie, you there? There you go. Wab, what's up, Wab? Okay. Let me see, because the chat's just opened up. Now I can read some of the comments. Can we have an argument for a simple family structure that just has function, dynamics, and that the or a simple family dynamic that is possibly healthy? Are we lost in the hey brother? Keep coming. Speak your mind. As a matter of fact, let me drop the link too since you're here. Wow. I'm off a little. I'm off today, but I gotta work later on. But I got a couple of hours here. An hour basically. So there's the link in case anybody want to hop up. Yeah, family structure. Well, you know, that would be a great idea, but it's a little too late. I think now for a lot of people, because people are adults and they're making adult decisions, and but you might want to think changing how you raise your own kids, right? I'm not saying that to you, Web. I just mean in general, like people that have kids need to step up to the times. Our family stepped up to the times that they lived in. We live in different times now. So it might look a little different, and it depending on how you are, where you are in the world too, like what kind of society you live in. But yeah, man, I agree with you, bro. Like some of this stuff is not progressive at all. Engelmeyer, the U.S. district judge appointed by former President Barack Obama. See, this might have something to do with it. Issued because they see Obama on anything. That's just going to be like, Obama's coming, y'all. See, it's Obama again, the boogeyman. Issued an order temporarily blocking doggy dog shit from accessing the systems on Saturday in response to a complaint brought by 19 states attorney generals. Let's bring it on, y'all. Let's bring it on. Like for me, what's taking it so long? What's taking it? Because you got to remember, MAGA people argued it was okay to physically invade the Capitol building, stomp over police officers' heads, shit in the main room entrance, right? And threaten and call for the hanging and death of Mike Pence and Nancy Pelosi. See, once you justify that in law, which is what Trump is trying to do, you can't go back without using all the time and energy to change that. So until all that time and energy has been used to change, what MAGA folk, what the Republicans have done, and being silent about this aggression, right? If you attack the politicians, you're attacking the American people. It doesn't matter which politician it is. We saw that. They could care less about who it is. You see what I mean? Um, yeah, but in any case, let's go on. They did that attack and it didn't turn out too well. They succeeded. Trump pardoned them, and now this guy is like acting like times he's being treated unfairly. Musk subsequently posted on X, the ruling is absolutely insane. Oh, this ruling is absolutely insane. How on earth are we supposed to stop fraud and waste taxpayer money without looking at, oh, here's another hook and sinker, like he's looking for fraud and waste when he is the fraud. He's been kicked out of Europe for fraud, essentially, and waste, what he's talking about. And Americans were so dumb, they want to get rid of regulations so he can continue his fraud in their own country. They want to give the richest man in the world an opportunity to set up a beehive and suck their blood, which obviously all Americans ain't going for. But the MAGA people, by the way, if you want to go for Elon Musk, go for it. But the rest of Americans are going to fight back vehemently, deeply, fiercely on every level, including the level that you introduced, which is unprecedented in some times, but you let the cat out of the bag. You let the cat out of the bag. Thank you. Thank you. In response to Musk's remarks, New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin, who is among plaintiffs in the case, told CNBC via email, what's shady is a tech billionaires breaking the law. What's shady is the tech billionaire breaking the law to try to steal millions of American sensitive data. And when they say data, listen, y'all, what they mean is putting chains on you, setting their hooks in your finances so that you can end up paying them in ways you never even imagined, so they can control your world. Every time you open up something, it's going to be directed to something that Elon Musk wants you to be directed to. It's dangerous. He could be cutting off your payment checks. You don't even know, or another family members. He could be cutting off anything. You have no clue. He could be using your name to set you up to throw you in jail. Um, in response, and remember, they always got some scapegoats. In response, Musk remarks New Jersey Attorney General Matthew Platkin, who is among plaintiffs in case, told CNBC by email. Okay, the Attorney General from 19 states argued that their complaint that Trump filed to faithfully execute the laws enacted by Congress and giving Musk and his team unparalleled access to Treasury computer systems and taxpayer-sensitive data stored or processed in them. After the order was issued, Musk shared the post from a follower on X who suggested Doge should defy the court order. You see, Americans need to hear this. They're saying and making arguments right in your face that they should defy the court order. So, Americans, are you going to go along with the law? Because they're not having any respect for the law. In fact, they just think it's just so simple to just defy the law. And it looks like it's becoming that way. And that in itself is the real danger coming. But only a slave follow laws that are only made for them. Just understand that it doesn't matter what your color is anymore. Only a slave follow laws that are only meant for them. Elon Musk and these other ones and Trump, they do not believe that any law that you should have to follow should apply to them. Or in their mind, it's unfair. This is the thing, VB. We are hard and lost in the demographic to take certain stances, but it's really our stance. Come on, fam, especially you. What is solid at the end of the day? Um, okay. I mean, I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say overall, but try to hop up, bro. We are victims. Yeah, we're definitely victims, but I think a lot of Americans are basically victims. A lot of people are victims to information in a lot of ways, but ironically, as a result of our balanced families. Um, okay, well, let's see here. Let me see what else. Doesn't matter what your trauma is. Good parents are good parents. Yeah, exactly, brother. I agree with that. Yeah, you have to. That's one of the aspects of parenting. You know, you got to be willing to let go of your own trauma. Now, people heard this. I'm going to drop this. You probably read about this. A lot of Americans have read about it. I'm just going to put this in the chat real quick, just for people that see it later if they want to view the article about Elon Musk whining about his rights being violated. You know, crybaby. Now, I want to thank all the activists, all the people that didn't just that minded your business. I mean, in a good way. The people that made a difference when a difference needed to be made. These are the people I want to highlight. These are the people I want to give my thanks to because these are the people that are making change and doing something decisive that makes a difference in people's lives today, right now, in this environment, right? These people pushed back against the army that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are attempting to let loose on the American people. Now, keep in mind, I don't think it's good to just look at racism as a part of as a component to Elon Musk or Trump. Of course, anybody can be a bigot, and a lot of people tend to have, some people tend to have more bigot in them than others, more prejudice in them than others. You know what I'm saying? Given the system and the way it has been working for some centuries, but or just life and politics. You know, there's always somebody that's not doing well, But the thing is this: when you have Elon Musk in them using racism, a lot of it is in doing these things, going after the courts, disturbing people's day to day activity. They want to disturb people. A lot of it is so people can be confused about their real goals. Of course, you got to take discrimination, racism, misogyny, and all these things totally serious because they are life threatening and have immediate effects on people's lives, daily effects. But the thing is that, you know, is it us that's allowing them to do this? You know, do we need to go to a law book to figure out right and wrong? Is that what we need to do? And here's an example of people that just said, fuck no, we ain't going.
There to spread hate, Jamal Howard says he had his own message.
They jumped into a U-Haul, man. We pushed up on the bridge, grabbed the flag, and as the people here, we burnt the flag right over there.
Howard was coming home from school and says he couldn't believe what he was seeing. He's feeling intimidated.
And I'm like, wow, we still doing that in 2025? We just got to have some meetings about it because I'm fearful for my life. I walk outside all the time, and now I got to be in fear just in case anything could happen now.
Other local leaders heard the same message.
This is a historic community as well. And these were people who had marched. Some of them had been with King and had been in that movement, and now they're seniors, and they're like, we can't believe that we're back at this point.
Lincoln Heights Village Council member Durance Daniels says this protest will be top of mind at the next council meeting.
Proud in our residents for, showing up. You saying that, hey, we're not going to allow anybody to come in and bully us in any type of way, especially in this moment.
He also wants to talk to the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office and Evendale Police for not breaking up the neo-Nazis protest sooner. Evendale police say although it was an ugly display, it wasn't unlawful and no arrests were made. Reese says the only way to stop it is to take a stand against it.
This is not going to be the place where you're going to set up shop here. And I think we've got enough people that are willing to say, hey, I'm going to speak out, and I'm not going to let this happen on our watch.
You know, that is interesting how this just got cut. But you know, so these folks, they ran into some issues. And let me see, let me go back here. That's it. Am I logged in? You can see my kids been watching some of my TV over the weekend. Let me see here. Here we go.
Yeah, Isabel, well, those marchers of state or of community leaders, excuse me, range from state senators to senior pastors, and their message was clear that, and people are chanting that throughout this entire area as well. They are saying that what happened yesterday is not tolerated in this area. And now we're going to show you some video of what took place just before 5 o'clock today. And here's a group of around 32 community leaders marching 2 by 2 along the same route where people more than 24 hours ago were chanting racial slurs. And those who marched spoke to us beforehand about the message they wanted to spread.
Oh, the message is just clear. We're here. We're here as Black men marching together.
Yo, and I'm gonna say something. You know, it would really be the right thing to do if people, all the people that Nazis affected, would stand up. It would really be useful if all the people that really are against discrimination, that say they're against discrimination, any form of discrimination, particularly the types that the Nazis participated in, which is, you know, fascism participates in racial discrimination, discrimination against women, discrimination against handicapped, discrimination against Muslims, discrimination against Jews, discrimination against a lot of different, even some certain types of Christians. They didn't care if you were a Black Christian, dead. You're not good enough. Asian Christian, dead, not good enough. Any other type except the phony type that they were trying to pretend exists, which is some pure-blooded European, which doesn't exist. You see? So this is pretty, you know, I would like to see more than just Black folk. But I'm going to say something again. Black folk are really, you know, I'm happy to see this, because at least you understand that this is a threat to everyone, including you. There's a lot of people that don't understand the threat until it comes to their door. Intelligence recognizes a threat before that moment.
Walking together, and it doesn't stop with this march. This is just the beginning of us doing something great in this city together, period.
Well, we're not hiding behind a mask. You clearly see that. We have mayors that are here. We have other folks, and just simply won't do it. My house, I can walk to my house from here. Not going to hide behind a mask. Not going to run. I see when this is so vile and so disrespectful, no, simply cannot be.
Oh, Wab. Yo, Wab, you better understand something, bro. I got no problem walking down the street with these people. I have no problem confronting Nazis, bro. And they're not just Nazis. You see what I'm saying? Yo, brother, you know, I'm looking at this video and there's a couple of things that stand out to me, but I'm going to say this. These people that bothered to show up for someone else's life, also, these people, there's a lot of numbskulls out there that's going to try to find a way to make fun of what they did. And particularly some brainwashed Black folk will do this from time to time, pick on their own, try to make light of something so they could avoid taking responsibility themselves. they're probably going to look at this guy maybe and say, "Oh, you're a preacher. That don't count. You're a Christian preacher. That don't count." Ha ha. Or look at the guy to the right. Your belly. Look at you. You couldn't even do this and that. Ha ha. Yo, let me tell you something. Intelligence leads me to understand what matters and what doesn't. And these people had the intelligence to see a threat towards their community. Standing up, speaking out early shows intelligence. Sitting back and waiting for it to pick you off one by one and having no voice, hiding on the internet, not being vocal and present in real life, physical space, taking up physical space, that's the wrong thing to do. So I want to commend these folks just for doing their part, and not just these folks that's marching the next day, the folks that went down there, the folks that actually showed up. And again, it's not just about Nazis. Stand up for your rights. What about your tax dollars? You going to stand up for your tax dollars? What about that? You pay federal tax dollars. You want your federal tax dollars just now being taken by anyone? I mean, you know, this is the thing about it. So for me, I noticed one thing: who showed up in advance, who had the intelligence to show up, because that really was a bunch of people trying to terrorize their community.
And so disrespectful? No, simply cannot be.
And like he said, there's just the beginning of what they're looking to do to keep continuing.
If they can spread this is the easiest type of thing to do. If you want to bother people, spread hate. If you want to bother women, then start talking down to them in every way in public. That's what this Nazi thing is. If you want to bother anyone, you just start talking down to them in public so they can hear you talking down to them. And when they accept you talking down to them in public, then they can move to the next part. They can gauge, oh, well, we're going to come back tomorrow and do it even bigger because look, this is the town. They didn't even say nothing. Hey, let's do it. See, we saw it the first time. And what happens the first time? The first time there's going to be people on the other side, right?
White supremacists.
And they're going to say, there might be proponents that say, don't do anything, just let them talk. So the first time, the people that say that, they will be like, don't do anything, just let them talk. Yo, they're going to go away. They'll go away on their own. There's a lot of people that have that logic, right? Yeah, and hold on, let me see. I see Wab. Come on up, bro, because I'm not really able to put all the comments together in the exact meaning, so I can't, So sorry about that, but just try to hop up. But let me see here. I'm gonna read your comments in a second, but okay. So you got to think. These people want to occupy space. These people with these Nazi symbols. What stops them from occupying space? And what do they want to occupy space for? They want to spread hateful messages, right? Hateful messages that resonate with the public based on real history, right? So they use these symbols to send out a message, right? Now, this isn't the message that Trump is claiming. Trump just claims they're not bad people. There's bad people on every side, but he doesn't claim that this is bad. Right? Elon Musk doesn't claim that this is bad. Elon Musk is giving off Nazi salutes on stage publicly for the world to see. People have been selling ideas of a race war in the United States for decades and decades and decades, right? They've been spreading it through information, whether it's the internet or not. They've been spreading this before the internet. The internet's not that old, right? They were been talking about this kind of stuff. Timothy McVeigh, all of them, they were talking about it on the internet too, but it wasn't just the internet. You see what I mean? These people in the Midwest, a lot of them are very susceptible to it because I guess communities are spread out, very spread out, and not like inner cities where everybody is together. So in an inner city, you walk down the street with this, you're liable to die. you're liable to be killed, especially in this atmosphere, just like 9/11. After 9/11, a lot of people, even that just looked a particular type of way, could have been, were harmed and attacked by mistake. But, it's a similar type of dynamic. So people are living with this fear. And I have to trust what this young man's own words were.
While the
Listen,
neo-Nazis were there to spread hate, Jamal Howard says he had his own message.
Jamal Howard, I salute you, young king. I salute you, young man. I salute you for being a decent human being who took action, who didn't find a reason to think too long, who didn't find a reason why to make this right and just go along with your day. Massa going to be good to you tomorrow if you just let Massa be. No, no. Young Jamal, this age, he has some intelligence. He's read his history. He knows what those symbols are about. He knows those symbols are about killing a whole lot of different types of people. Handicapped people were no good to Nazis. Jews were no good to Nazis. Muslims were no good to Nazis. Black people were no good to Nazis. All types. They were controlling women's bodies. They forced women to be impregnated by what they thought was the perfect specimen. Like literally. You see, authoritarianism. A lot of people don't read up on the Nazis apparently, but Jamal has.
They jumped into a U-Haul, man. We pushed up on the bridge, grabbed the flag, and as the people here, we burnt the flag right over there.
And they burnt the flag, and yes, because this flag, Nazi flag, is shit. It's nothing. It is to be burned. It is a failure of humanity. You see, just as much of a failure to humanity to whites as it is anyone else. It should be, because all they found out was that people like this use rhetoric to go out and steal your money. They run off with the money and leave the multitude of white people broke and poor. That's what happened here with the Nazis in history. Hitler and his generals, they tried to slide off with the money, and people even speculate that some did. You see, but they were hoarding them wealth. They weren't telling the public what they were interested in. They were selling the public this white supremacy shit, but they were after the gold, you know? And you know, and let me see here. So just keep that in mind, bro. WAP says, bro, we are old enough to remember the weather front and other right way. Yeah, exactly. And they didn't really have the internet either. The weather, what were they called? The weather something. But yeah, I mean, this kind of thing. Right, I hear you, WAP. Yeah, it's true. Well, I don't know if you have to be well traveled, WAP, anymore. I agree with you though, but you definitely need to be well rounded with your information sources and the people you're around. You know, yeah, education spreads through the internet. If you come in contact with it, or it spreads through people. If you come in contact with good teachers, you know, good people that are educated. Also, whoever is in your sphere is what we borrow from. Whatever you have access to is what we borrow from to educate ourselves. But you're right, man. I mean, we need to approach this from a well-rounded perspective, because it's not good to stick your head too close without being willing to pull back and look at the panorama, the bigger picture too, at the same time. You got to be able to do both. That's the point in having an organized front. Those that go in close and those that are looking from afar and watching the battle to see how it develops broadly. You see, and but on the case of young Jamal here, I give you my respect. I respect you. You are a young man that needs to be promoted. You need to have access to any type of education, and you need to have access to travel to observe people around the world in different places, Jamal, because you saw something a lot of other people did not do, and you did something with your own instinct. No one had to organize you. No one had to say, hey, Jamal, on Friday, we're going to have a demonstration, y'all. No, Jamal, you did all that yourself, bro. You did all that yourself. You calculated and you made a choice, and your choice was supreme.
He had his own message.
They jumped into a U-Haul, man. We pushed up on the bridge, grabbed the flag, and as the people here, we burnt the flag right over there.
Young people like Jamal. Young people like Jamal. Yo, this is your life. This is your inheritance. These Trumpsters and these Elon Muskers are coming to take your birthright from you. That's what they're doing. After your families toiled in the soil for how many centuries? And these clowns like Elon Musk, just because they have money, they're coming to steal from you. And if Black Americans, do not send this, or any other Americans, people that have been stolen from in American history, if you do not stand up and knock this down, just like young Jamal did, you are going to have more of your money taken from you. And that cannot make any sense at all. That cannot make any sense at all, because you are not rich. You are part of the lower middle class at best, lower class very likely. And unless you think you're rich enough to have some shit stolen from you, you know. Anyway, let me pull back off of this one. So I just wanted to salute young Jamal. I wanted to salute all the people that did that. And in any case, any place in the country where this is going on, I want to salute you because you did the right thing. Anybody from any other background, you don't have to be African American. You could be anything you want. If you stood up against this, I want to salute you.
After a group of protesters with swastika flags took over an overpass in Lincoln Heights, hundreds of community members gathered back at the very same spot where it all began to send a message that racism has no place here and that they won't be intimidated.
You are a white brother and sister who stands with your black brothers and sisters. I want to hear everybody make some noise out here.
Love and unity. It's the message from Pastor Julian Cook from Lincoln Heights Missionary Baptist Church. Leading them in song and prayer as hundreds gathered Sunday to show their solidarity for their community.
This rhetoric in our nation has to stop.
And to send a message after a group of people displayed Nazi symbols over an I-75 overpass Friday near Lincoln Heights and Evendale. The group had their faces covered, some armed with rifles, and then counter-protesters broke through a police line to confront them to burn.
Now, here's the thing. Why do they have their faces covered? Trump and Elon Musk. Why do they have their faces covered? You know, this is where the cowardice lies. Look, anybody can hold a gun with their face covered. Anybody can hold up a Nazi flag with their face covered. Why don't you want people to know who you are? Why don't you, with your real name, stand on business yourself? And if you want to go out there and kill a bunch of N-words and kill, why are you doing with a mask, homeboy? Just go out there and do it. Just go out there and do it. Get busy. What are you waiting for? You know, and I suspect what they're doing is they're doing a temperature check. And I suspect you're going to see a lot of temperature checks like this around the United States of America, where people like this show up with some arms with masks just so they can take up some space and spread their hate. You see what I mean? Show some force with their guns, show that they're not real men and cannot have a fight without a gun, you know, like most coward men. right? Because, a lot of men know they can be kicked in the balls without that gun, right? Have their throat chopped without that gun, right? So this is the epitome of a coward. If you ask me, young Jamal didn't need no mask. He didn't need no gun. Yo, let me tell you, a mob of people can, in fact, be very successful running up on all these people, beating their ass, and taking their goddamn guns. Don't underestimate a mob. Now I don't know why these people seem to think that this temperature check is going to work, but just keep in mind who they're trying it with. Um, let me see here. I'm just saying, man, if I have to lean more towards Antifa, I'll lean that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what Antifa has been talking about for a minute. Like, I'm not saying I roll with all the ideology or anything like that. But one thing, if you notice, is that they will take some action against this type of stuff. And they won't necessarily be asking permission, because defending yourself from this type of shit is supposed to be embedded in the Constitution. What the hell else do you need? But passive strong boys. My daughter's also character and support. Okay, my fault. Sorry about that. I posted that on the screen. Wow, my fault. I just want to make sure I'm not ignoring the message. I'm seeing your messages properly. 90s dads, mad women that are too strong for the young. Oh, you think so? That's why they lied. Andrew to take it. Okay, bro. I'm lost with what you're saying, Wab, but don't worry, man. Just go ahead and type. Let me proceed with this. You know, again, this should be easy enough to see. You should not have to, nobody should have to wake up and see these people with masks on, with guns. This is intimidating. You're threatening and trying to intimidate a community. And this is the lowest of the low. This is the lowest of the low. I mean, this is the lowest of the low. Like,
Dirty crowds also get a bad rap in this community, but they're the ones that have it on the front lines.
Flag.
Those under 30 crowds also get a bad rap in this community, but they're the ones that have it on the front lines. If someone shows those
You
under
hear that?
30 crowds also get a
the 30 crowds, the young people under 30 and things like that, they get a bad rap, but they're the ones that's actually on the front line with a lot of this stuff. And listen, this is part of it. Young people, you might have been out there doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. You may not be listening to your parents. You may be roaming the streets. You may be smoking a little weed. You shouldn't be. Right? It's not great for you. You want to focus on your ambitions, your real ambitions in life, right? I'm not saying but you can, if you can drink some alcohol at 18, then you should be able to smoke some weed at 18. But here's the thing, in my view, that's my view. But all those things should be lifted up to 21 or above, if you ask me, right? But as far as the law, right, and usage and things like this, but young people get a lot of slack for just being young people, not having a whole lot to do. Well, now you got something to do, young people of America. You got something to do. See, because this is where the old people, and I'm not dissing old people because there's a lot of them in the courts. Most of the old people are in the courts fighting this shit, fighting these rulings, trying to make your life safer, and they're being effective. And don't dare believe that there's nobody trying to fight Trump in the court. There's people in the courts across the country fighting Trump's executive orders every single goddamn day. Disinformation, do not allow it. Okay, there are people fighting for you in the courts. I don't know where the hell the police are. If you ask me, the police that sat back and don't recognize that that is harassment, what those Nazis did, standing out there on the bridge, waving a Nazi flag, reminding you of how we could kill you, how we killed you, and how we hate you. That's wrong. That's a misinterpretation of the Constitution. That is, and I'm sorry if there's some state laws that seem like you think it's okay for Nazis to have freedom of speech. Wrong. They're a hate group. And states have the right to ban them. And sure, you might have freedom of speech, but apparently you have no laws against hate speech, and that is a violation. That's a violation. Remember, these Nazis are not talking to the government. They're not talking to Elon Musk. They're not talking to Trump. They're talking to average citizens in that community. So they're not even using freedom of speech for what it was designed for, speaking truth to power. They're not. They're not in threat of the government. They're not speaking. They're not trying to threaten the government. They're trying to threaten the average taxpayer. You know, and yeah. But anyway, let me hear.
Bad rap in this community.
Some armed with rifles. And then counter protesters broke through a police line to confront them to burn their swastika flag.
Those under 30 crowd.
Police, police, police officers in states, you better tighten up. You better figure out the difference between freedom of speech and hate speech before something worse happens.
Also get a bad rap in this community, but they're the ones that have it on the front line.
If someone shows up at your door who is a clear enemy, you're not going to welcome them in. You're going to be afraid. So we wanted to make it clear that this community would not be afraid. We're going to stand together, and we're going to stand together. For peace and justice and righteousness.
Showing their strength in numbers and messages of love over hate.
Actually, and there's some people from some different backgrounds here. I can see it's not only Black Americans. So let's point that out also, for the people that want to spread division, for the people that only know division as a tool. It's important to point out that there are some people from different backgrounds outside of African American or Black American.
And righteousness.
Showing their strength.
Right? So, and it's important. Here's one right here. I'm sorry if this sounds petty and if some people don't understand this, but just because you don't understand it doesn't mean it's not understandable to others and necessary to point out for others. Right here. You see? Now you could say he's a news reporter or whatever, but they're not beating his ass. He seems like he's respecting their freedom of speech, and they're not being violent. They're not throwing up a flag that's symbolic of killing his people. Here's one right here, and there's others. I don't know where they all are. You can't really see. Here's maybe this one. I don't know. There's a few in there. I just wanted to point that out because just to understand that fighting Nazis, fighting authoritarian regimes, fighting fascists is not something that is exclusive for any group. All groups should be down with this. Let me pull up off of this now, though. Yo, these kids, wow, these kids are very smart. And nobody is all smart either. No adults are all smart, obviously, because how could so many vote for somebody like Trump? And not that he didn't break the law, not that Elon Musk didn't buy the election. They cheated. They threw out votes and they paid for overrepresentation, and he got in power that way. That's a flaw and that's an error by adults in the U.S. system of good. That's not a democratic. That's not a democratic society problem, because all democratic societies don't do that. Most don't. Most are one man, one vote. The United States is not even one man, one vote. You could argue about the Electoral College, but they don't even count the damn votes, period. So you don't even just have an issue of not having one man, one vote. You have an issue of just counting votes, which is anti-democratic. So it's not really clear whether the U.S. is a democratic nation anymore. It's not. And as you notice, Trump will have zero communications with the world about democracy because he is not a champion of democracy. He doesn't want to encourage democracy, and he can't because he didn't use democracy. He didn't use votes to get elected. He used money and suppression. So let me go on now to flip something out here. Let me see. Yeah, it's been a rough couple of days. Has there been any riots in any of these kind of let me see, Nazi, anti-Nazi? I don't think they've been too active right now because the I think demonstrations. Okay, you see these things go on. Oh, here's the news. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There is breaking news, and I'm glad. I got to start taking a list. But let me see here. There's breaking news. Let me go over to this. Um, Now, what was it? It was about Elon Musk spreading fascism. Right now, he's going out here um, trying to spread it. Right, and he's trying to spread it across Europe. You know, look at this. See, um, yes, this is Jan 8th. They spoke about this, but this is ongoing now. Let me let me open up my phone real quick. 2 seconds. Sorry, y'all. 2 seconds here. Let me see. Because I had a message here in my notifications also about something that's happening in Europe that connects with Elon Musk and this, spreading of disinformation um, and supporting of right wing, not right wing Nazis. Elon Musk is supporting fascist movement across Europe. That's what he's doing, and of course, you would not want to be one of these lunatics that's out there talking about Democrats right now because Democrats are the only ones really pretty much fighting this kind of stuff in the courts and even, largely on the streets, right? Oh, here we go. But this is spreading across in different countries. Um, you see, and look at this. Netanyahu, this is the worst. Netanyahu's going down for this. Netanyahu defends Musk in controversy of Nazi salute. Who would ever thought? I mean, there's people that said that Netanyahu himself is a fascist. There's people that said that, and well, could you ever imagine a Jewish person standing next to anyone, smiling and having nice things to say when they give off a Nazi salute? That is a new point in history. Um, and that is really bad look for Israel, and that is likely to cause Israel more harm. Um, you know, and it's really troubling, particularly to Israelis, but others should be troubled in the region when you have, because again, Nazis hated Jews and Muslims and others, handicapped people, black people. They really threw a lot of people in the gutter, in the trash, in the death camps, in the ovens, in the gas chambers, all types of people. And for Netanyahu to even be seen anywhere near a person like that is a clear failure of diplomacy for Israel. This is my view. And, others need to think about how they're going to confront that. But for a lot of other people, they were saying, hey, I'm not surprised. We always been saying not Netanyahu is a fascist because look how he treated us. This is what people have been saying. I'm not saying that's my words, but it's hard to argue against it when you have a president, an Israeli leader, leader of state, head of state, that stands next to a person that makes light of the Holocaust, and especially one that doesn't look to clear it up to the public. Fuck what Netanyahu thinks about it. Netanyahu's just one man. Netanyahu's not the public. What about the public? What about the world? You know? Now, he was supposed to be garnishing empathy for Israel to secure Israel. That didn't do it. That has harmed Israel. So I would encourage Israelis to run away quick from Netanyahu, because things are probably going to come back to you. Yeah. So, yeah, this is crazy. But damn, what was I about to go over to? What it was one thing. Let me think. What was it? It's in the U.S. Spreading the Nazis here. What was it? Trying to support fascist movements around the world. But what is it? What it was one other thing? What was it? Yeah, you could see this has been an issue across Europe for years, combating fascism. This has been the big fight across Europe, and Europe kind of got a hold of it in some kind of way. But you could see Elon Musk propping it up from the United States is sending signals to fascists around the world to stand up. And there's a lot of activists in the U.S. Oh, I remember what it was, Jill Stein. There's a lot of activists in the U.S. who they seem to not get how this is connected to politics. And there's a lot of activists outside of the US that don't seem to see the connection in Western politics. When you allow certain people to have a voice, it spreads to other countries in the West and around the world. It gives a signal. And when you have the US give a signal that it's sympathetic and empathetic to Nazis and fascists, the world is in danger. Yes. People's way of life is in danger. That is the message they're sending out. Whether you respond to that message or not, some people will, some people won't. Some people will act early, some people will act late. Some people want everybody to go to work tomorrow, and some people want disturbances to that. Some people want the GDP to come up, and some people want the GDP to plummet due to their actions and inaction, depending on what it is. Now, let me come off of this for a minute, for a second. How many minutes I got left? Yeah, 1 hour. Okay. Jill Stein, leader of the Green Party, or one of the Green parties, right? Let me flip over to this. Jill Stein meets with Putin. Now, there's a lot of people here. This has been covered before. This was in Hillary Clinton. Now, look, you see, people. Jill, I don't know if you know who Jill Stein is. She's one of the leaders of the Green Party, Independent Party, and she is one of the reasons why Hillary Clinton, not Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, Biden, even Hillary Clinton get a lot of negative attention. And there's a reason behind that. If you ask me, Russian government, Putin himself and his government, right? Military people have been paying folks off in the United States. They have been tampering with the US political system, with the elections, particularly. They've been supporting certain candidates through financing. Maybe you can't prove it all, but these are not mistakes. These are not accidents happening. These are real events, and people need to come up and be aware of it. Step up and just admit it. Look, this is Jill Stein, and they're about to ask her. Now she sounds like she's like an activist, anti-war. No, 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 no. Russia is not anti-war. Russia is pro-war. They're pro-invasion, and they make excuses about it all the time. They have their particular excuses. Ironically, they claim to want to fight fascism in Ukraine, yet they're supporting Trump and Elon Musk. That's very ironic. They have very close association with Elon Musk and Trump. Very close, just as Jill Stein has very close association. Now, look, there's this class of older people in the activist community that tend to borrow, in my opinion, a Cold War type of view to things, where they adapt everything from the Cold War from the 60s and apply it as a, how could I say this, a Pan-African from the 60s or an independence fighter from the 60s, 50s, and 60s. But that's not the time of day we're in anymore. And on top of it, any activity that Russia had in the past, they did for themselves, just as nations do. Um, they were fighting over resources with other nations, and they have since the beginning of time. Russia is an imperial nation. Russia is wanted to be the second Rome. That's part of their thinking, the Orthodox thinking, their particular Russian Orthodox thinking. You have to know this. It's not, they're just not any old people. They're particular people. And I'm not saying that you should demonize Russian people, but I'm just talking about the theology, what they teach, what they're brought up under, the exceptionalism, Russian exceptionalism, just like the US has American exceptionalism, just like Europeans have European exceptionalism, just like Chinese have Chinese exceptionalism. They thought they were better. They thought they were the leaders of the world, the ones who should rightfully lead the world for whatever reason. Well, Russia had that theology going on for a while and still does. All right. Now, here's Jill Stein. Let's play it. This is the leader. Now, this person only shows up at election time and takes votes away from Democrats.
We handle everything. So I want to take that to the larger sense of the Trump administration as he handles everything. Your assessment of that as a person who ran against him.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump is...
Listen, she says she's running against Trump. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. She's not running against Trump. She ran against Kamala Harris. Now, I don't know how many people don't speak English, but that is an incorrect statement. And Democracy Now! Is part of spread. This is where they and their type of propaganda gets very particular, because Democracy Now! Is supposed to be about democracy, right? But you're not supposed to play with those toys that are anti-democratic either. So unless they just claim you can call yourself anything and that's what you are, this is kind of the leeway they're giving Jill Stein here. She can describe herself however she wants, and they themselves described her as running against Trump, but she was also running against Kamala Harris. Why don't they probe that lane?
A symptom of a very sick political system. You know, what we see going on in the White House right now, you know, hearing, I think it was yesterday, you reported, I think on your program, that Lindsey Graham is now instructing President Trump that if he continues to harass Jeff Sessions or tries to get rid of him, that essentially what he was saying is that, you know, get ready for impeachment hearings. And, you know, to hear that from staunch Republicans, that they're actually threatening him now.
Now this is 2000. You see, this is 2016 when she was running against Hillary Clinton also. Now you see this, right? But yet it's 2025 and people are still trying to pretend about Jill Stein that she is not actually what she is running against the Democratic Party. They got funding. I want to pull up some information, but it's pretty likely that they got funding from Republicans to even run the last time, but also this time. So, you know, of course, with the U.S. Elections, this type of thing, fundraising and all of that, it makes it very difficult to know who's supporting who, right? But there's a lot of ways the billionaires have to support people like this, because of the lack of laws on financing, election finance. But she's propping herself up like she's running against Trump. But the only person she served was Trump. She served no one else. Democrats, picture this, remember this. Democrats lost this election. Trump became president. She did it again to Kamala Harris too, right? So listen.
Lindsey Graham is also, you know, writing a bill to stop Trump from dismissing Mueller at the FBI. So, you know, people really get that Trump is a liability. He's a disaster. The sparks flying out of the White House now with the dismissal of the chief of staff and the incredible comments of the communications director. Talk about, communications. You couldn't have a worse example of how not to do communications. They've really become the laughingstock of the world, and not just the world, even, in the U.S. And I think they're becoming a big liability to Republicans. So, I think Donald Trump is very clearly digging.
Now, look, she said this in 2016. You see? Okay, but it worked for them. And your opposition to Democrats worked for Trump. What you going to do different, Jill Stein? But this is getting somewhere. Watch this.
His own grave. He's been a lame duck president since the beginning. He's passed absolutely nothing.
He's a lame duck president again. I mean, he's not planning on passing much. And the first thing that he might get passed is this impeachment about that one judge that ruled against Elon Musk. That's if Congress and the Senate want to get active on anything. But so far, they have done nothing, not one law.
Nothing.
Not even one law proposed.
He remains a grave danger because of what the president can do, especially around the military. But, he does seem to be on his way out now, which is a wonderful thing. At the same time, remember.
Is it a wonderful thing? Now, here enters Jill Stein.
He got elected by supporters who were not so much voting for him as they were voting against Hillary Clinton and the neoliberal legacy.
You see this? You see what? Now, here's her talking points. Neoliberal. Let's just listen to this.
Of the Democrats that have also been throwing people.
Neoliberal. They're borrowing. A lot of people don't even know what neoliberal means. As a matter of fact, people confuse this. Oh my God. Often, 2 seconds. You got to remember, in the Cold War, neoliberalism, right? Liberalism itself, and that's not the same thing as neoliberalism, but liberals, you have to understand, the whole idea of being a liberal is to be free, right? And Russians were primarily, against that. Now, they weren't against neoliberalism, right? Because that wasn't the term. That doesn't really connect directly the same way. But you could say that in other ways, this issue of liberalism has come up in the ideology, it's come up in Russian thinking, right, as being an issue, obviously, because of the Cold War, or but now it's taken a new spin when they mention it in politics today. Neoliberalism, like today, neo as in new, not liberalism, which was a thing about the Russians fought against, right? Or it's something that they sold as an ideology, like let's fight against liberals and liberalism. And you see, she's now using a new thing, neoliberalism, right, to describe what happened in the past as liberalism. You see what I mean? To describe what's happening in the present as just liberalism, unfettered lawlessness, this kind of thing, right? But let's listen to it. It's just interesting to point out the terms.
So I think, the bottom line is that we are in a very unstable and transitional political moment. People are looking for something else. The Democratic Party has not.
So she's looking for something else, and she's describing it as people are looking for something else. She's describing it as people don't have a choice, right? They vote for Democrats because they don't believe in the ideology. No, that's not why a lot of Democrats vote for. Most of the Democrats believe in the Democratic platform because it's the only party that really has a moving platform in operation, right? But
been
let's check it
able
out.
to step up to the plate and do a real kind of internal self-assessment. So, I think it's an open book right now as to where it goes. It's potentially a very liberating moment. The Democratic Party's been trying to reform itself at least since the realignment movement of the 1960s and 1970s. It hasn't gotten there in the efforts to reform the DNC.
Well, America has been trying to reform itself since those days. You see how slick this is? So you got to understand why she has this particular view. And they're going to show you what it is at the end of this. Watch. But listen to the words she says, because she's condemning Democrats like Democrats aren't Americans. Everything that she describes as the American experiment, when she wants to cast it as bad, becomes the Democrat experiment.
Didn't work. Nancy Pelosi is still staying the course against.
Why do you think, you see, Nancy Pelosi, again, Nancy Pelosi still staying the course. Nancy Pelosi is a representative of voters. Where is that? Where is that any different from any other representative, But listen.
Single payer health care. This would be a perfect time for the Democrats to be pushing it forward. Single payer health care. This would be a perfect time for the Democrats.
But she ran against the Democratic Party just two election cycles later that have that. You see, so she's making arguments she doesn't even stick to in present time. She wanted the Democrats to have health care for single families. Yeah. Well, they offered that. What's the problem? What was the problem this time, Jill Stein? What was the problem when you ran against Kamala when she offered that? You see, people, you have to pay close attention. Look.
Democrats to be pushing it forward. You had the majority of Democrats in the House that actually supported an even bigger military budget than what Donald Trump is supporting. So we need a political change. And
you need a political change to what? Americans being shocked about 9/11? You see how she describes this? Democrats push for it. No. Americans pushed for it regardless of party. And this is the thing. Look. But guess who's not really against Russia or Putin?
I think, stay tuned.
I mean, more defense. Is that bothering Putin? Does it bother Jill Stein or is it bothering Putin? Watch.
And hold on to your hat.
I wanted to ask you about that famous.
Then hold on to your hat. People held on to their hat. It's a decade later, right? So what's different?
Photo that is the bane of Trump's existence. The former Trump National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, and the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, together in 2015.
This is Jill Stein right there sitting directly across from Vladimir Putin. This is Michael Flynn, who admitted himself pled guilty to collaborating with Putin, with the Russian government. This is Jill Stein sitting directly across. You see? Now, what would make anyone think that her agenda was not actually in line with Vladimir Putin's thinking? Right? You don't see Kamala Harris invited to this dinner. Where is she? Is she sitting across from Putin? You don't just get a seat across from Putin. You see this? This is fraud. This is fraud. And democracy now, you all need to do some better. This is not the first fumble that you made in the name of democracy. It's not. And they've done this before. Since this time, 2016, they've uncovered so many different quote unquote supposedly activists that have taken money from the Russian government or Russian spies. These same people, the Russian spies, they've been giving money to fascists. That's what's been going on. The Russian government has been trying to play both sides of the field. And people like Jill Stein give them plenty of room to do that. People like, what's the guy, the leader of the Uhuru movement, give them plenty of opportunity to do that. And Democrat, I'm sorry to say this, but democracy now they have given room for these type of scams to exist through old relationships, trying to validate them, because a lot of these people, to be honest with you, they are using an old Cold War thinking where Russia was part good and not completely oligarchy controlled, fascist controlled, right? That's a different time period of the nation. That would be like you confusing the United States today with like the United States in the colonial period. It's not the same. It's not that. Sure, the Constitution, the founding rules are solid, but that wasn't, those founding rules weren't even all there in the colonial period. They were developed over time. You have amendments and things like this that get worked on further. So she's making a mistake. you know, no Americans would see the United States as the same as it was 100 years ago or 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And no Russian would see that. So, but they're using this old idea and trying to further it in U.S. politics. And it has been the cause pretty much of you seeing a lot of right wing activity. Because while there's people on the left fighting against right wing activity, extreme right wing activity, and I would even say people in the center, you have people like Jill Stein and you got Democracy Now! Giving them a voice without pushback. I don't have a problem with Democracy Now! Giving Jill Stein a voice, or Chairman Amatule from the Uhuru movement. But be critical. This is not a critical interview. I'm telling you, this is not pushback.
We handle everything. So I want to take that to the larger sense of the Trump administration as he handles everything. You are Cecil Flynn and the Russian President Vladimir Putin together in 2015 at a dinner in Moscow. You also
in Moscow. Yo, I'm sorry. But if I did that, if I went there and had a dinner with a white supremacist wearing a hood, sat right next to them at dinner, right across from them, so we could talk directly, knowing that this person is running for the presidency of the United States. Well, Vladimir Putin knew that. So what was his angle? I mean, this is ridiculous. People, I'm just saying to young people, wake up, because it's true what you've been saying. All of these older people are not necessarily useful to young people. I'm just telling you that. But I myself have studied this stuff and take it serious. I'm 55 years old. I love history and I love politics, and I've been studying it for the larger part of my life. Larger part meaning majority. This is how the U.S. government got taken over. I'm just saying, pay attention through excuses like this.
So, Jill, we're at that dinner, and you were actually in that photograph at that head table. So, to say the least, you had a bird's eye view. What were you doing there?
So I was there actually to deliver one of the main messages of my campaign, which is that war has failed in the Middle East and that we need a peace offensive consisting of a weapons embargo and a freeze on the funding, the bank accounts of those countries that are sponsoring terrorism. At the time, Russia had just begun to bomb Syria. And my message was that Russia was following in the disastrous footsteps of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East.
But how did you?
You see that? You see, it's in her opinion that Russia is following U.S. policy. Oh, really? That's interesting, because why don't you just give them the credit of having their own policy anyway throughout history? Jill Stein, you know that they're an imperial nation. You know the roots, Russian exceptionalism, and people are trying to play down Russian exceptionalism and play up American exceptionalism, play down Chinese exceptionalism, and play up European exceptionalism. Yo, all these people think at one time or another thought they were exceptional and have a view that their way of life is better. But let's talk to the people that live under these groups. Let's talk to the people that live in the U.S. Let's talk to the people that live in Europe. Let's talk to the people that live in Russia. Let's talk to the people that live in China. What do the people think? And you will find that most people that live in Europe that live in the US believe it's freer according to their experiences, and people feel that it's less freer in China, less freer in Russia. Keep in mind the word liberal when you hear this. Liberal means freedom. That's what it means. Freedom. So it doesn't matter what you attach to it, neo or liberalism or liberals or any of that. The root of it is freedom. So pay attention.
You end up at that table. This is the head table.
That's right. I knew I was going to be at the head table. All of the foreign diplomats were seated at the head table. Unfortunately, there was no interpreter at the head table, and there were no introductions made. Vladimir Putin came in.
And this was a celebration of.
You hear that? Unfortunately, there was no interpreter. Yeah, whatever. You think people are stupid? Jill Stein?
Were seated at the head table. Unfortunately, there was no interpreter at the head table, and there were no
End up at that table. This is the head table
of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East.
But how did you end up at that table? This is the head table.
That's right. I knew I was going to be at the head table. All of the.
She knew she was going to be at the head table. Do you think she gave that up easily, willingly? No, it's because they know that she knew. So she wouldn't be able to lie about it because of how everyone ended up at that table. Everyone at the table knew in advance. So what is she, but you can see her roll her eyes. Look.
That's right. I knew I was going to be at the head table. All of the foreign diplomats were seated at the head table. To be at the
table. This is the head table.
That's right. I knew I was going to be at the head table. All of the foreign
tables. The head table.
That's right. I knew I was going to be at the head table. All of the foreign diplomats were seated at the head table.
What difference does that make? So if let's say if the president of Saudi Arabia was there, the head of state, would that make a difference? She's all of the foreign diplomats at the head table. She doesn't want to tell you who's at the head table. She doesn't want to tell you who you're sitting with. And now keep in mind, people that have that Russia has attacked in the 90s, in the 2000s, they call Putin a butcher. That's what they call him. This woman sat down at the table. She sat down at the table right across from the butcher in Russia. Each time she has run against a Democratic candidate claiming that she's running against Trump. Right? So just listen to how Jill Stein describes herself. I got to tell you, I call it bullshit. I call it bullshit. I'm not making no excuses for Democracy Now! Or Jill Stein. Yeah, that's right. Because I don't give a damn what your political party is, and I don't give a damn what you call your news network. Just because you call yourself Democracy Now! Doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. Doesn't mean that you're always on the side of democracy. Doesn't mean that you're always doing journalism. And Jill Stein running for the president of the United States every time a Democrat runs, saying the same U.S. stuff, which is really Putinist shit. I call it out. I don't care who it is. Fuck who Flynn's party is. Flynn is a sellout. He's a traitor. He's a treasonous. He's a traitor. That's what he is. That's what he went to jail. That's what he was prosecuted for. That's what he admitted to being. And Jill Stein is right there with her. Hey, Beth. Jill Stein is right there with her. So, this is really, really poor. And I know that Americans go for Jill Stein a lot because we have few political parties, but don't be a sucker to Jill Stein. Don't be a sucker to disinformation. Don't be a sucker to the ploy. Don't be a sucker to the game. You see what I'm saying? This dude lined up the U.S. using Jill Stein. He did. And he thought to do that. And it worked. Yes. Putin can be an evil little genius at times. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have a big ego. And it doesn't mean that he hasn't made failures. He has made failures. He's made tactical failures too. But this is a tactical failure of the Americans and not necessarily the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party called these security failures out on the table. It's up to the Americans. So the failure is American citizens to think critically about politics, think critically as an American, you know, to be up to date. And obviously, since you're having a serious issue with education, that might be a little hard to do. I'm gonna play a little bit more of this, and then
Also, Jill, were at that dinner, and you were actually in that together in 2015 at a dinner in Moscow. You also, Jill, were at that dinner, and you were actually in that photograph at that head table. So, to say the least, you had a bird's eye view. What were you doing there?
So I was there actually to deliver one of the main messages of my campaign, which is that war has failed in the Middle East and that we need a peace offensive consisting of a weapons embargo and a freeze on the funding, the bank accounts of those countries that are sponsoring terrorism. At the time, Russia had just begun to bomb Syria. And my message was that Russia was following in the disastrous footsteps of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East.
But how did you end up at that table? This is the head table.
That's right. I knew I was going to be at the head table. All of the foreign diplomats were seated at the head table. Unfortunately, there was
Jill Stein sold out Americans. She sold out Americans. That's what she did. And this is why you're seeing Trump again, because she has never been addressed. Democracy Now! Has never been addressed for doing uncritical interviews. I mean, they might call this critical. Yeah, sure. They let her sit up there and lie. Everybody knows that she's lying if you watch the interview. It's obvious to see she was caught red-handed accepting something from Putin, just like Flynn accepted something and admitted to. How she escaped any prosecution, it could be because of some loophole in laws, but this lady is obviously lying to American people.
No interpreter at the head table, and there were no introductions made. Vladimir Putin came in.
And this was a celebration of 10 years of Russia Today.
Well, it was a celebration, but it was also a conference, and there was media there actually from all over the world, including U.S. media, Canadian, Chinese, etc. It was a real chance to lift up a different point of view about U.S. foreign policy, as well as Russian foreign policy, to a broader audience. On that same trip,
so you didn't get a chance to talk with Putin then?
Not a word. I was hoping to deliver my message to Putin, but there was no interpreter. He walked in.
But Putin knows who the hell she is before she even arrived. He doesn't need to listen to her. It's being recorded. Someone else is going to say it. They're sitting at the same table. You think Putin shows up to a table in Moscow where the table's not being recorded? Are you out of your mind, lady? And listen to Americans. She's feeding Americans this dumb bullshit. Look, it's not a failure of American foreign policy. It's a failure internationally. You see, Americans are just part of the colossal things that have been going on. It's not the U.S. alone. The U.S. has been fighting. China, Russia have been arming people, and they're not arming the nicest people on earth who have every single respect for blacks, Muslims, Jews, Christians, or natives, or anybody else. These people kill with impunity also. You see what I mean? So for her to describe it that way, it's utterly ridiculous. And Americans, if this is what you accept, no wonder this is what you got.
With a group of
you got Trump. She says she was running against Trump, but she's really running against Democrats only.
people that I thought were his bodyguards. It turns out they actually were his head of communications, his chief of staff, etc. But you wouldn't have known it. I spent the dinner talking to the German diplomat to my right. He was the only person who spoke English that was in earshot of me. And
your assessment of what has been made of that, and of course, ultimately, Mike Flynn was forced out as national security advisor.
Yes, well, bear in mind that Mike Flynn has many contacts to Russia, and in fact was paid $40,000, which he accepted from the Russian government. I wasn't paid a penny, and I declined sponsorship for my transportation, my room, and my board. So, I went there absolutely without any conflicts of
No, she didn't go there without any conflicts of interest. She did the bare minimum.
interest or encumbrances. But it's like nothing happened at that dinner. Nothing happened at that dinner. Michael Flynn has his own issues going on with Russia. I can say that for my own part, that picture circulates without a single fact. I was there with a number of peace advocates.
The picture circulated. We don't need rhetoric. We saw you sat right across from Putin. That's facts right there.
Who, unfortunately, we have to turn to Russian TV and to Democracy Now! But there are very few TV stations that cover peace candidates. I was there with Rocky Anderson and Ray.
Did you hear the gaslighting right there? The gaslighting is that, there's very few stations you could turn to for impartial media, and that's Russian TV and Democracy Now! You see this bullshit? She's catering to Democracy Now! And then comparing them to Russian TV.
Stations that and to Democracy Now! But there are very few. I can say that for my own part, that picture circulates without a single fact. I was there with a number of peace advocates who, unfortunately, we have to turn to Russian TV and to Democracy Now! But there are very few TV stations that cover peace candidates. I was there with Rocky Anderson and Ray McGovern.
The former mayor of Salt Lake City.
Yes.
So we're going to do part 2 of this discussion, and we're going to post online at democracynow.org. Jill Stein, the 2016 presidential nominee for the Green Party, just came back from South Korea. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Our website's democracynow.org. Special thanks to Mike Burke, Tina Gessler, Nermeen Sheikh, Carla Wills, Laura Gottesdien.
Here's the thing. You got to ask yourself, where is the Green Party right now? Where's the Green Party right now? And what is the Green Party doing to stop Trump in the courts, any of his executive orders? What are they doing? Listen, it's not good enough to have aspirations to be the president. You actually need to do some good. You really need to do some good. And when you do bad, when you do something that's not right, that has been a colossal mistake, you should admit it before you can go along further and do more harm. And that's basically what has been going on. Now, I don't know how many people want to catch up with this and pick up on this and really see what's been going on. But listen, you don't have a picture of Kamala Harris sitting at a dinner, running for office, trying to get Putin's attention, to talk to Putin. You don't see that. She admitted herself that she wanted to talk to Putin. The problem with her is that she had not fully admitted what Putin had been up to himself. She thinks that Putin is just a great leader that just is operating and doing everything fine. And it's only the United States government that has any type of problem and issue with how it governs and how it has foreign policy, which actually is not true. So hold on 2 seconds, y'all. I just need to pay for something for my son. But This is what's been going on, y'all. This is part of the confusion. They spread things, information to people that is false, and they do so under the guise of I don't know why they do it this way, but they do so under the guise of democracy often. Just like Republicans say they want to, save the republic. Um, just like people that accuse the Democratic Party of not being told. I mean, I don't see how the Democratic Party is not the best party in the country and the most capable and functioning party. But, I'll let other people be the judge for themselves about this stuff. And 2 seconds, y'all. Hold on. Let me just pull this back a little bit so you can hear a little bit more of her instruction in 2016 about
the advisor Michael Flynn and the Russian President Vladimir Putin together in 2015 at a dinner in Moscow. You also, Jill, were at that dinner, and you were actually in that photograph at that head table. So, to say the least, you had a bird's eye view. What were you doing there?
So I was there actually to deliver one of the main messages of my campaign, which is that war has failed in the Middle East and that we need a peace offensive consisting of a weapons embargo and a freeze on the funding, the bank accounts of those countries that are sponsoring terrorism. At the time, Russia had just begun to bomb Syria. And my message was that Russia was following in the disastrous footsteps of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East.
But how did you end up at that table? This is the head table.
That's right. I knew I was going to be at the head table. All of the foreign diplomats were seated at the head table. Unfortunately, there was no interpreter at the head table, and there were no introductions made. Vladimir Putin came in.
And this was a celebration of 10 years of Russia Today.
Well, it was a celebration, but it was also a conference, and there was media there actually from all over the world, including U.S. media, Canadian, Chinese, etc. It was a real chance to lift up a different point of view about U.S. foreign policy, as well as Russian foreign policy, to a broader audience. On that same trip,
So you didn't get a chance to talk with Putin then?
Not a word. I was hoping to deliver my message to Putin, but there was no interpreter. He walked in with a group of people that I thought were his bodyguards. It turns out they actually were his head of communications, his chief of staff, etc. But you wouldn't have known it. I spent the dinner talking to the German diplomat to my right. He was the only person who spoke English that was in earshot of me.
Your assessment of what has been made of that, and of course, ultimately, Mike Flynn was forced out as national security advisor.
Yes. Well, bear in mind that Mike Flynn has many contacts to Russia, and in fact was paid $40,000, which he accepted from the Russian government. I wasn't paid a penny, and I declined sponsorship for my transportation, my room, and my board. So, I went there absolutely without any conflicts of interest or encumbrances. But it's like nothing happened at that dinner. Nothing happened at that dinner. Michael Flynn has his own issues going on with Russia. I can say that for my own part, that picture circulates without a single fact. I was there with a number of peace advocates who Unfortunately, we have to turn to Russian TV and to Democracy Now! But there are very few TV stations that cover peace candidates. I was there with Rocky Anderson and Ray
The former
McGovern.
mayor of Salt Lake City.
Yes.
So we're going to do part 2 of this discussion, and we're going to post online at democracynow.org. Jill Stein, the 2016 presidential nominee for the Green Party, just came back from South Korea. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Our website.
A bit sorry for the delay in the stream, but I hope people got something from this. You know, nobody replaces your activism. Do you want to be involved in politics? Do you want to have a voice in democracy? You need to be engaged so you don't fall for the okey doke, because this has been a lineup for the nation has been under attack, covert attack. It's had sellouts. It's had people on the inside conspiring together with foreign nations like Putin. Do you want to have a decent life, or do you want to have a country where your citizenship matters, or do you want it to be undermined by nations that you're at war with? And do you believe the propaganda of the other nations, or do you believe the propaganda of your own nation, or are you intelligent enough to research and be able to see through all propaganda, or are you just going to be a victim? Let me tell you, Jill Stein, she just spread some propaganda talking about you can only go to Russian TV or Democracy Now! For unbiased news. That's bullshit. All of the news networks are in shambles because all of them have people in it to take handouts. I mean, I hate to say it. Jill Stein, she might likely takes handouts even if she's not aware of it. Chairman from the Uhuru movement, he took handouts. He admitted he took handouts from the Russian government, from the same agent that supported fascist movements in the US. So how are you going to fight against fascism when the people you're getting support from support fascism? That's the message for today, folks. And Americans better get it straight. It's I don't live in the US. I'm American. So I understand that there's other ways to look at things, but for you to think that you can only look at Russian TV or Democracy Now, sorry, y'all, shit is way worse than what you've been told. And don't fall for the okie doke. There might be problems, but start off where you are with who's fighting for you in the state you live, and see who's doing something in the state that you live, and reward those people too. Peace.